Hey folks, in today's video I'm going to show you an overview and some close-ups of all these different RV drinking water hoses. Now let me give you a little background of why I'm doing this first of all. So I recently sold my RV and gave away one of my favorite water hoses with it, thinking that I'd just replace it. And when I went to go look for it, it happens that I guess with all the COVID supply issues that it's a little bit harder to find now. And so it kind of got me thinking, well, maybe there's another hose that's easier to find. And you know, it's kind of hard with hoses to know what they're like when you're looking online, what they feel like, how flexible they are, what they look like inside the hose. And so I bought a whole bunch of different hoses here. You can see I've got, this is the 0G, the one that I had. I had a spare one for the rig that I rent, so I'm featuring that one here. And then this one's the Flexzilla, and this is their kind of their sister product for RVs, the SmartFlex. And then we've got the Kohree brand, the EvoFlex from Camco, and then this orange one is the YGJT. So these are all RV drinking water, you know, safe hoses. And I paid for these all with my own money. This is not sponsored by any of the makers of these hoses here. And basically I'm just gonna plan to return the ones that I don't like. And so I'm gonna try to give you some close-up shots here. Now this format of this video is a little bit different than my other ones. You can see we're inside. I've got some bright lighting here to help shine on all these different hoses so you can get some really good close-up shots. So it's gonna be a little bit different, but I'm gonna start with this 0G hose. And this has kind of always been my go-to hose for camping, for RVing. I really like this hose a lot. I've used this, not this specific hose, this is the one for my rental rig, but I've used a similar one for I think about 3 years and had zero issues. Now I'm not a full-timer, I recreationally use the RV, but I still give it a pretty good workout. And I also have about, probably 5 or 6 of this same brand around the house that I use on the property. And I have had zero issues with them. It's the same hose, just with a gray woven fabric on the outside, and then it's a 5/8 inch diameter, which, by the way, just kind of interesting fact while we're talking about that. This is you can see a blue kind of sheathing around it, fabric, and it's a 1/2 inch, specifically marketed as an RV drinking water safe hose. But I recently found out that the standard gray jacket that's in a larger size, the 5/8 inch, it's actually the same inside hose, and it's also drinking water safe. So you don't have to buy this blue jacket version of the 0G. You can get the gray one and it's still drinking water safe. And so I actually kind of like that idea better just because it's a larger diameter hose. This is 1/2 inch and the gray is 5/8. So anyway, that's kind of a side note. But back to the 0G, what I really like about this hose most is it is so easy to collapse and store wherever you want to put it. I mean, you can just see that it bends in whatever direction. You're never fighting it or trying to force it, or manipulate it into position. It just flexes, and that's what I really like about this. And then the other thing is the weight. This hose is super, super light. It's just a little under 2 pounds, and for reference, all the other hoses you can see in the background here, most of them are just under 4 pounds. So I mean, it's almost half the weight of a traditional hose. So those are probably the two biggest selling points on the 0G brand of hose. Now, for me personally, I've had no issues with this hose, especially the ones that I use around the property. I mean, I have pulled on these things and yanked on them, and none of them have failed. And I probably had some of them for at least 5 or 6 years now. So I'm very pleased with the performance of these. However, I did recently watch a video from another RVer on YouTube that had a failure on his 0G hose. And so I'll put a link, I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'll put a link in the description below once I find it. And it's just kind of interesting because, I'm not like I said, a full-time RVer, but there's other people out there probably using their hoses a little bit more. And so I'll put a link to that one so you can see his thoughts. But for me personally, I really like this hose a lot. It does have a 5-year guarantee from the manufacturer. And I think in the video that I'll link below, the other YouTube video addresses that because he had some warranty issues on. But really like this hose a lot, super flexible. I also like that it's a darker color. I kind of like it at my campsite. I like things to look neat, and I like that this hose is kind of subtle, the color. It kind of blends in with the surroundings. It's not like a bright, orange or like a green like some of these back here. It just kind of blends in. And of course the gray one, if you get that, the 5/8 inch version, it blends in even better. So I do like that. I think the cons or the dislikes here, and I haven't had this problem as much with the RV, but using these same hoses around the property, if you coil them up in storage like this, and then maybe you don't unwind them all the way and you hook it up to water, sometimes if there's a kink, you can see it does kink easily. If the water pressure isn't quite enough or it's just at the right angle, it will stay kinked. And, you have to go over and lift the hose up and kind of unkink it manually. So that's probably the one con about this. It's, like I said, for RVing, really haven't encountered that because I set my hose up and make sure it doesn't have any kinks in it. But that is kind of the one, I think, dislike or con to the 0G. All right, so that is the 0G hose. And now let me jump over here to the Flexzilla. All right, so this is the Flexzilla by Legacy Products. And this is probably the other well-known hose in the RV community that I've at least heard a lot about. And so that's why I wanted to check this one out. But it's made by Legacy. You can see here that all the ones I'm doing today are going to be 25 feet long. And all the rest of them are going to be 5/8 in the diameter. And so the first one was 1/2 inch. The 0G, all the rest are 5/8 of an inch. But you can see this one has some different qualities the manufacturer puts on here. On their website, they talk about how the inner coating of this hose is mold resistant. So that's a good thing. Obviously, if you're out camping and you put your hose away in storage, you don't want it to develop or grow mold inside. This brand is very well known by the RV community, and the ends of the hose on this one, I believe, are anodized aluminum. And so they have a special coating you can see here. It almost looks like paint almost, but it's more technical and specialized than that. You can see something else that's kind of unique about these on the inside. You notice how there's an O-ring washer in there. Instead of one of those just plain cheap flat washers that most hoses come with, this one has this O-ring, and it's almost like I don't know if they glued it in there or if it's kind of mechanically fastened in there, but it's kind of neat because I think that O-ring looks like it would seal up better or be more versatile, perhaps, depending on your hose bib or the hose that you're trying to attach to at your campsite. So that's kind of something unique about this particular model. And you can see it has a standard kind of a jacket to reinforce it as it leads up to the collar there. And what else? It does have a limited lifetime warranty, limited being the key word, so there's probably stipulations there. Think overall this one feels like really good quality. Here, I'll show you kind of how it flexes. So you can see it doesn't kink until you get really sharp, and then it starts to kink, but it goes right back to its unkinked position when you let go. So I think this one probably would resist the kinks a lot better than the 0G. It seems to anyway, but it's a very soft, flexible material, and it feels very high quality. And you can kind of almost see in the kind of this bright finish on the outside, you can almost see the inner layer. It's got kind of a webbing, kind of a standard hose webbing there. So that is the Flexzilla. So kind of my likes about this one, it feels very high quality, I will say. I've only, by the way, only used this 0G hose over here personally. This is the only one that I actually have experience in. I do have a shorter Flexzilla hose that I bought many years ago, but I haven't really used it, so I can't really say personally how it holds up. Which, by the way, if you're watching this and you have one of these hoses already and you've used them for a while, would love to hear your feedback and comments on your experience with the particular hoses here that you're seeing. But I do like the way this feels. It does feel very high quality. I kind of like the O-rings inside. I think that's kind of unique, and it just makes it feel like it's a better quality hose there. I think Flexzilla really, they did a good job making this feel like a premium product overall. As far as dislikes go, I'm not sure how what I think about this bright neon green color here. As far as thinking of your campsite and it blending in, I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you want the hose to stand out so people don't trip on it if kids are running around your RV. For me personally, I kind of like the idea of it not being the first thing that you see, kind of like an eyesore when you look at your campsite. So I don't know about how I feel about this color. Color is just color at the end of the day, though. It's not the most important thing. So that is the Flexzilla product here. Now let me show you this next one here. Kind of fell down. This next one is kind of interesting because it's actually made by the same company of the Flexzilla. You can see Legacy. Same thing here on the Flexzilla, Legacy. So I imagine this is basically the manufacturer's attempt to make an RV version, kind of a marketed version specifically toward RVers. And it seems like it's very similar. When I feel the hose material and then I go back to the Flexzilla, it feels very similar. I mean, I have not talked with the manufacturer, but just feeling the hose, it feels almost the same. Maybe this SmartFlex is ever so slightly more rigid, maybe. I mean, this Flexzilla feels maybe just a little bit softer, perhaps. I could be wrong, but that's just me feeling it here. But it is made by the same company. It is a little bit different though. A couple things I noticed. So it has this kind of grip on the end where it connects to your hose bib at your campsite. So that's kind of neat. And it looks like this is, I think, some kind of aluminum perhaps, either that or some kind of nickel plated finish in here, but it looks like something that would hold up. And then this outer grip appears to be glued on. So I would think they probably use pretty decent glue to keep that on there. In worst case, if it ever, slides off, I've seen that happen on hoses before, you can just glue it back on. But it does make it nice because then you can connect your hose bib without any pliers or tools. I mean, normally you just hand tighten it, but that just kind of makes it easier here. One thing that I did notice on this SmartFlex hose though, if you look at the diameter of the opening here, it's actually larger than the Flexzilla hose. Let me see if I can put them side by side so you can see them. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but the inner diameter there inside the collar here it's definitely bigger on this SmartFlex hose. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, I like that because you're going to get more throughput, more water potentially, because you don't have a bottleneck there restricting the flow. So that's kind of interesting that they did that. It's got that same O-ring in there, you can see. A couple other differences are you can see the color of the hose on the outside. It's just white with a blue stripe running down there. So I guess they're trying to get like a marine RV vibe going on there. And one thing that's kind of interesting here, so the Flexzilla hose had a lifetime, a limited lifetime, limited being the key word on the warranty. This one you can see has a 2-year warranty. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if the manufacturer's thinking this is going to get, dragged around and coiled and uncoiled more than the one that goes, to your house. I don't know. And maybe they're trying to limit their liability, perhaps. I'm not sure. Or maybe the hose is different. I mean, like I said, it feels ever so slightly harder and more rigid than the Flexzilla, but I could be wrong. I'll kind of bend it here so you can see. I mean, it doesn't kink very easily. It's kind of very similar to the Flexzilla. But yeah, I mean, ever so slightly for me, this is just me being subjective, it feels like this Flexzilla hose is ever so slightly softer. So that's just my analysis feeling it here on camera. And then the other end of the hose, I believe, is plain. Here it is, inside here. It's actually, it's got a jacket on, kind of similar to the Flexzilla hose, you can see. So that one would be the side that goes to your RV. All right, so that's the SmartFlex hose. So let me tell you what I like about this one. Well, first of all, this one, the price, and I don't know if I just caught an anomaly or a sale or something, but on Amazon, this one's only $16, $17, something like that. Whereas all these other hoses I'm showing you are closer to $30. Usually it's like $1 per linear foot, roughly, is a average price. But this one, for some reason, is significantly cheaper. So I don't know if, again, that was just some sale I caught, but this one was the cheapest out of the bunch. So I like that. I think that's great. I mean, even though $16 versus $30, right? Not a big deal, really, in the grand scheme of things. But that's kind of neat that one's a little bit cheaper. I'm not sure how I feel about the color. I was thinking about this and thinking, with we live in Georgia, and there's a lot of Georgia clay sometimes at campsites, and it rains and gets muddy, and so I'm just imagining this white material absorbing Georgia clay, and you're having to clean it and wipe it down when you're packing it up. And I just don't know if that's going to stain this white outer jacket or how that would maybe it just wipes up. I don't know. But I will say one advantage of a white jacket is, I mean, look at that on camera. You can see when you shine light through it, you can see into the hose. So, I mean, you can tell if you've got mold or something going on in your hose. You can see how it's all nice and clear right now. So that's definitely one advantage of this hose being white and lighter like that, as you can see on the inside. I just don't know how it's gonna hold up, with dirt and stuff on the outside. But I definitely like that. I'm just not sure about the 2-year warranty, why they limited it like that. I really personally haven't had a lot of hoses fail that I've bought in general. So I don't think that'd be a deal breaker, but it is kind of interesting why the Flexzilla has a lifetime limited and this one has a 2-year. So just kind of a side note there. All right, so that is the SmartFlex versus the Flexzilla. And now let me pull out this next one. This next one I bought is the Kohree brand. All right, so I had not heard of this brand before, I don't think, at least. It kind of reminds me of another Camco company. When I looked them up on their website, it looked like they made a lot of RV accessories, lights and different small things, maybe more electrical related, but different small electrical and RV accessories. And so this is their attempt at making a drinking water hose for an RV. All right, so let me compare and just kind of show you the flexibility on this one. For me, this one feels very similar to the Flexzilla. In fact, I'll kind of bend it a little bit so you can see first. It kinks almost about the same rate as the Flexzilla once you get all the way past 90 degrees. I'll show you the Flexzilla again. So very similar. I mean, when I feel these one hand in one and one in the other, they feel almost identical. Maybe, and this is again just me being subjective, maybe the Kohree is just a little bit softer. I feel like there's a little less resistance for me pushing on it, maybe, but it is very, very, very slight. So that's kind of the material. It feels very high quality. The outer jacket here on here, I mean, it feels very much like the Flexzilla product. In fact, if I had my eyes closed, I don't think I could tell the difference between these two hoses. They feel very, very similar. Let's take a look at the end though. So it also has kind of a molded piece here to grip as you're tightening. This is the part that goes on to the campsite spigot. And then you can see inside, it looks like it's got aluminum in here. If it's not aluminum, it's probably zinc coated or something, but it looks like something that would hold up. And then it's got just a plain flat washer like, most hoses have in there. And just look at this one though, this one being blue, you really can't see the inside of the hose, even with all this bright light. So that is kind of interesting with the SmartFlex back there, how you can really see into your hose. That's kind of a nice feature. But otherwise, the other end is going to be standard, just like the Flexzilla, just with a little kind of a jacket, reinforcing jacket on the end there. And you can see what the other end looks like. So on the Kohree, let me tell you what I like and dislike about it. It's very similar to the Flexzilla, I think. It appears to have aluminum ends on both sides there. I kind of like this blue color. It's kind of more neutral. You think of water, you think of blue and refreshing. And so even though I know color is just color at the end of the day, I kind of like how they went with this kind of soft blue color for the outer jacket of the hose. What else? The warranty. Okay, so this is a dislike. I really could not find any warranty information on the Kohree, even on the Amazon product page. I also went to the manufacturer's website and really couldn't find anything about the warranty. Now I'm gonna assume, just because they sell on Amazon and have a kind of an Amazon storefront, they are trying to get good reviews. They're probably gonna stand behind their product. And so if you have an issue, I would imagine if you reach out to them, they'll probably have a process to replace it for you if you had any issues. But whether that's 1 year, 2 years, lifetime, I don't know. And so that'd be kind of the big, the wild card on this particular one. But it feels very well made. Just the way this is all attached here, it feels real sturdy, real solid. And like I said, it feels very, very similar to the Flexzilla. I mean, I think, this is my opinion, but I think in all honesty, probably the failure point on a lot of these hoses is going to be more where the hose connects to the metal, the collar here. I think, most of these hoses are going to be just as durable on the outside of the hose itself. So it's probably going to be, at your collar where something might fail. But that is the Kohree brand. This one was also about 30 bucks, by the way. I would almost expect a kind of a newcomer or a less popular brand to be a little bit more affordable, but this one was still about 30 bucks, at least at the time of this video. All right, let me show you this next one here. This is the Camco EvoFlex that I bought. And Camco, for those who don't know, they make a ton of RV accessories, everything from, sewer things to, door handles for RVs, covers for your vent covers on top. Just, I kind of think of Camco like a budget-friendly RV manufacturer or RV accessory manufacturer. They make all kinds of different things. I'm not saying they're cheap or, poor quality. I just mean most of their things are priced kind of entry level or, more affordable. So this is, I think, their attempt to make a hose that kind of stacks up to some of the more premium hoses out there. And they call it the EvoFlex. It's also a 5/8 inch diameter. And this one is, for those who like things that are made in the USA, this one's made in the USA, except, notice the fine print there, from Global Materials. So imagine they, get maybe the hose from another country and maybe the ends there from another country, and then it gets all put together and, machined here in the USA. So little side note there. All the other hoses that we looked at were made in, I think, China and Taiwan, if I remember. The 0G hose is also, I think, assembled in the USA is the language they use or something like that. So kind of similar to this one. But back to the Camco EvoFlex. This hose is definitely a different material than the other ones that I've showed you before. I would say it looks and feels more like a traditional hose. So like even this outer jacket here, it's got a little more of a texture to it, just a little bit rougher, a little bit coarser. And then even just the flexibility of the hose. I'm not saying that it's hard and not flexible, but it just doesn't feel as soft and pliable as the Flexzilla or the Kohree brand. One thing that was kind of interesting on here, of course, they advertise on the front, they say extra flexible. I think I read somewhere, oh, here we go. Yeah, no memory. And that's kind of how they're touting it. But one thing I did notice is you can see here when the hose was in the packaging all the way, this twister seal right here was around the hose. And so, I don't know how long it sat like that, maybe several months perhaps, but you can see it does have an indentation there. So, there is some memory going on, just like a regular hose. I think that's the detriment of a lot of hoses. They have a memory, and so if they get stored in a certain way, then that kind of kink becomes like a weak point, and so it always wants to kink up in that area. So you can see that actually kind of is forming a point like that already, just out of the packaging. So, but it does seem to flex out. It's just, I see an indentation there. Hopefully you can see that on the video as well. So I would, just based on looking at it here, I'm not sure that this hose is quite as flexible, and it maybe has a little bit more of a memory compared to some of these other hoses that I've looked at. But it does feel higher quality, I will say. And let me show you the different ends here. You can see, so this is the end that connects to your campsite, and it's got, some kind of, I would imagine, aluminum here or zinc coated. And then it's got little things for your thumbs and fingers to grip around as you turn it. Just a regular flat washer in there. But this hose has something interesting. It has this little kind of coil, this support on either end. So imagine you're plugging into your RV on the side there, your water inlet, and you're plugging in horizontally. And if you didn't have this, the hose might have a tendency to just, bend like this and kink up and then cut off your water supply. Whereas if you have this kind of spring on it, almost, it kind of keeps it from getting bent and kinked up. So that's kind of a nice feature that only this hose has there. So what else? On the Camco hose, what do I like and dislike? So I think I like the color. Again, I think makes sense to make the hose blue since you're putting water in it. It does have those supports on either end. I think that's a nice feature. Like I said, I do think this hose is probably prone to kinking a little bit, probably where, from memory it's stored, just like you can see from that indentation from the twister seal. So I think that's one, slight concern on there. And then as far as the warranty on this particular hose, I don't think I saw that. I would imagine Camco, has a pretty decent warranty on it, though. I think they stand behind their products pretty well. Camco is obviously a US-based company as well, so the marketing and the people that develop those policies are probably more based in the USA as well. All right, so that's the Camco EvoFlex hose, and I'll just show you how it flexes too, if that kind of helps. So you saw some of the other ones here. This one seems to kink, closer to 90 degrees, whereas the other ones, it seemed like you had to go past 90 degrees before they started kinking. You can see this one, I mean, it almost takes going past before it starts kinking. So that is the Camco EvoFlex. Last one, and this is kind of just one that I threw in there I saw and kind of caught my attention because it was just different. This one is from YGJT, kind of an odd brand there, YGJT, a weird combination of letters, at least for me anyway. This one's orange, as you can see. It's also 5/8 inch, 25 foot long. And this one feels, to me, almost identical to the Flexzilla. I mean, when I put these side by side, yeah, I mean, I think these are almost identical. And just even looking at them side by side and looking kind of behind that outer layer, I mean, the imprint of the webbing inside looks almost identical. So, you know, maybe the Flexzilla is just a little bit more flexible, perhaps. But this one feels very, very similar there. And you can see it's got the orange color on the ends here. I am not sure if this is brass. It doesn't quite look right to be brass. I see behind this collar, the piece here appears to be brass. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but this just looks almost too gold or too orangey. So I don't know if they've coated it with something or if it's zinc that's been coated to look like brass. I'm not sure what that is. The only other observation I could make on this hose is the play in this little collar here as it screws on. You know, they're relying a lot more on this washer because of all that play there to tighten up and make that connection firm. So I don't know if that's a concern at all. Like I said, I haven't actually tested these and hooked them up to pressure, but I am noticing right away this one definitely has a lot more play in the collar there. All right, so this one's made in China. I would say the marketing team and people that made up everything are probably also based in China. You can see this is the only one that came in a box. This one seems to be very flexible like the Flexzilla hose. I'm just not sure about these ends here. I don't know, this just feels or looks kind of cheap. You know, when something is artificial looking, like they coated it and colored it to make it look like something else. I almost just wish they would have left it, you know, whatever color it was naturally. And I could be wrong. They just don't tell a lot from the manufacturer what this is here on the end. But that's just my initial thoughts there. So that's kind of the 5 different ones that I purchased in addition to the 0G. So I'll kind of lay them out there again so you can see all of them. If you could do me a favor, if you're watching this and like I mentioned earlier, and you own one of these hoses already, if you could let me know in the comments below and let me know your experience, you know, whether you've owned the Flexzilla or maybe this Kohree or Camco model, or of course the 0G. And let me know your thoughts. You know, has it held up? Has it been reliable? Have you had a failure with that particular hose? If so, I think that'd be really helpful to the community. But I'm kind of torn here. I'm not sure which one that I'm going to settle on. I still really like the 0G hose. I love how light it is. Remember, this is about half the weight of all the other hoses that are out here on display, and that's really, really nice. And I love the way it collapses and folds and stores. But I also like that you can see into this on the SmartFlex hose. I think that's really handy. You can see if you've got something growing or going on inside your hose. And then I also like just the overall feel and quality of this Flexzilla hose. And then of course this Kohree hose feels very, very similar to it. So I'm kind of torn, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Out of all these different hoses, which one would you go with? Would you go with the 0G? Would you go with the Flexzilla, the SmartFlex, the Kohree, the Camco EvoFlex, or the, oh, I got to remind myself the name on this one, the YGJT, the YGJT garden hose? Which one would you go with? Well, I hope you found this video helpful. Like I said, I just bought these all and with my own money. This is not sponsored by any manufacturer, but I will put links to all these that I found on Amazon in the description below. And so I appreciate you supporting the channel and using those links if you wish to purchase one of these. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, definitely hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, especially if you like RVs and RV accessories and RV mods and upgrades and stuff like that. I really enjoy solving common RV problems and coming up with creative solutions that kind of make the whole camping experience a lot more pleasant and enjoyable. So definitely check out my other videos, and as always, thanks for watching.